So give me an example.
We share the primary mechanism of life. The DNA is shared amongst all the creatures on this planet.
Okay. What does that show?
That shows that that you mentioned Darwinism is different from evolution. How so?
Okay. Evolution was a term that was coined around 1600s.
Okay.
Right? It was used to refer to general biological change.
Okay.
So Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, about 50 years before Darwin, he published his own theory of evolution, which was Lamarckian evolution, which had multiple origins and parallel lines of evolution.
Okay.
And you had this sort of belief about gradualism and complexity over time. Multiple origins.
Yes.
Charles Darwin came 50 years later and he gave another theory, the theory of evolution via natural selection, saying that all of life went back to a universal common ancestor.
That is not actually what Darwin stated, but go on.
Yes, it is.
No, Darwin stated that a species is subjected to a certain selection pressures, adapts to them over time.
Yep.
He didn't draw the conclusion that that is where humanity came from. That came after him.
He actually drew it in his book. There's a figure in his book where he says, I think, and he draws the tree of life.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So that's universal common ancestry. So that's what I was referring to. So what did I get wrong?
Okay. So you believe that all species on this planet evolved from different beginnings? Is that correct?
No, that's not what I'm claiming. I'm going by your initial claim, which is that you're saying is true. How do you know universal common ancestry is true and not in Lamarckian multiple ancestry is true? How do you know?
Lamarckian mean?
Lamarck come from separate origins.
No, Lamarck basically.
Oh, as in the
Because of the evidence of the last 150 years.
So
Not a single ancestor.
let me explain.
Follow, yeah.
Evolution just simply means biological change over time.
Yes.
There's evolution actually happening in your gut right now.
Yes.
Right? So for example, when you get bacteria which tries to affect your cells,
Yes.
you have to mutate, you have this whole system going on, you have rapid change.
Yes.
You can have it within your body or outside. Okay?
Yes.
Evolution is an observation, that's not a problem. The claim of universal common descent, which is the claim, like I'm just going to ask you a question now, because I want to check whether I'm correct in me understanding what you understand. Right? Do you believe all of humanity goes back to a single pair of male and female?
No.
No. Okay. Do you know that since you reject this belief, your belief of universal common ancestry is a greater claim than that? Because universal common ancestry says all of humanity, plus the elephants, plus the giraffes, plus the birds in the sky, plus the trees in the trees, and the invisible octopuses with their skin and everything, goes back to one single cell approximately 4 billion years ago. How can you accept that and not accept that humanity goes to an ancestral pair? When
Because
this is a great...
complicated organism. At that time, it was a simple cell.
Let me finish this conversation. No, that's fine. I know you can help him out, but let me just finish the conversation. How do you know universal common ancestry is true?
I don't.
3 minutes. This one.
Oh, is it? Okay, so I thought that's what you were claiming.
I mean, that's what I believe.
Okay, that's fine.
Whether
That's
the
your belief.
truth is, for example,
You sound more like a religious person now.
because that's the thing. That's the thing about being open to logic and to science.
No, but that's
Is
not-
that
when you say I believe-
none of your because I do believe it. Because none of your beliefs are ever set in stone and unchangeable. None of it.
His beliefs are based
Hang on,
on
hang on,
150 years of rigorous scientific
Exactly.
Your beliefs are based on zero.
And I'm happy to if I honestly if I am presented
One
with
second.
evidence to support the fact that lives that we have evolved from different ancestral lines, then I'm willing to change my view.
I'm a bit confused. When I first came here, your level of certainty was there. Now you're saying it's a belief.
Yes.
All right? Now, if you're going to come to Speaker's Corner here,
Yeah.
and like we do with everyone, you have to give evidence if you're going to make a claim.
So what is your evidence to support your claim?
What's my claim? I didn't even make a claim.
Exactly.
I'm here to challenge your claim.
Oh,
Because your
okay.
claim was
You cannot
universal
shift
common
the
ancestry.
burden of proof on him when you're making the claim.
Okay, and the other thing is, you said it was a belief. Now you do realize that's religion. That's not
That's what I
science.
said,
Darwinism is actually a religion, which started off as a scientific theory, but is
Okay.
now a religion. And the proof is in the pudding. This man here and you, both of you believe in this, but you have no evidence for it.
No evidence. You disregard the whole 150 years of science.
Go ahead, give me some evidence.
The fossil record, the DNA.
Okay.
You disregard that.
No, hang on. The fossil record is a subfield in biology. You can't say an evidence is the fossil record. How is the fossil record an evidence for Darwinism?
Well, because it shows the history of the development of species.
How does that support universal common descent?
Because that's what it shows. That's what looks like happened in the past.
Okay, how does it show that?
Well, because if you dig down, say half a meter, you'll find creatures from around 5,000 years ago. If you dig down more and more, you'll find creatures from more and more longer ago. And what you'll find is that the more you dig deeper, you'll find more simpler creatures, which represent the things that creatures evolved into higher up.
Right in the circle.
Okay, you do realize Darwinian theory believes that there is no inherent progress. Okay, so random mutations are random in respect to the organism. So there's no such thing as directed mutations. So according to classical Darwinian theory, you can pick up any book. I'm just going to give you one reference: Philosophy of Human Evolution, published by Cambridge University just in 2013, 2014. It makes it clear there's no such thing as progress in Darwinian evolution. For example, you're no more complex than bacteria. For example, you survive and you reproduce. Bacteria survives and
Bacteria
reproduces.
has been around for 4 billion years. We're equally complex to a certain degree. However, what does define?
Hang on. Now you're contradicting yourself. Are bacteria are they as complex as us?
Well, bacteria that have been evolved around 4 billion years, and to some extent they are.
As us?
They're not as complex creatures, but they have complex survival mechanisms.
It just depends on the selection.
Do they
pressures that
survive and
face.
reproduce?
Yes.
Okay, do we survive and reproduce?
Yes.
So according to, and let me just give you this, right, because you guys are not contradicting yourselves now, you're contradicting mainstream secular academics. For example, Henry Key in his book, The Accidental Species, Misunderstandings of Human Evolution, he says, and he's a Darwinist, we are no more complex than bacteria.
Okay.
Right? According to Darwinism. So you can't come
Didn't I
here
just say
and
that as well?
say
Didn't I just say that
we
as
are
well?
more complex.
No,
We
but
are
didn't
not
I
according
just
to
say
your
that?
How is it?
according to your worldview.
How do you understand that we are not more complex? What is meant by that?
It's not me, by the way.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine. But that's
It's not-
the evidence
no,
you're
it's not
quoting.
me.
So
He's
This
avoiding
is-
the
this
fact
is
that it's down to the
Darwinist.
selection
Okay,
pressures.
let's have
one discussion.
This is Darwinist.
He picks and chooses who he wants to talk to.
because at the core, I see what you mean by the statement that we're no complex, because at a fundamental level, our bodies and the bodies of bacteria have very, very similar mechanisms.
Okay, now you're referring to something known as homology.
Okay.
Homology is the claim that similarities are due to common descent.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is how they look at a chimpanzee and a human being, and they say because of similarities there must be a common ancestor.
Yeah, but no, that's not true though, because there's a lot of different places.
Let him
Wait, hang on, I'm going to speak to one
Eyes have
person at a
evolved in
time.
many different places.
I'm gonna-
Rings have evolved in many different places.
I'm going to speak to one person at a time. Okay? Now, what you're referring to is homology.
Okay.
Now, there's some issues with homology. Number one, you need to understand homology is an assumption.
Okay.
It's not something which is based upon concrete observation. Secondly, we know of a counterfactual to this assumption of homology known as homoplasy. For
Okay.
example, there's genes in your body which develop to let you see, for you to have eyes. Likewise, there's genes in the octopus which are there to help it see. But these are known as homoplasious genes. They're not due to common descent. So homology is something which is an assumption which has a counterfactual to it known as homoplasy. Plus, to rectify that discrepancy, what you have to do is you have to put together a probabilistic framework based upon Bayesian probabilities with 9 mathematical assumptions, and then you come to what would be considered an approximation based upon assumptions and conceptual problems of a divergence between different species.
I see what you mean.
Right?
In the same way,
No,
in the
hang
same
on,
way,
hang on.
in the same way. So
Hang on a
basically, what you're
second, hang on
saying
a
is in the same way that a bat's wing is that I assume that a bat's wing came from the same thing as a bird's wing.
No, but that
because it fulfills the same function.
No, but the thing is that's not due to common descent.
Those traits are not
Yeah.
because they have evolved at different points after those species have already
Yeah.
split.
So your initial point about homology-
yes, but then you go back.
Yep.
Then you go back even further. So let's say you have different ancestors. So my basic claim, the thing that I find the most incorrect,
Sorry, say
and
again?
the thing that I find the most incorrect, and it's a view, not really an opinion. It's the fact that people tend to think themselves so much better than all other creatures on this planet because they have been given life by Allah, by God, by Yahweh, by Ra, by countless other beings.
Two things here. Number one, we're speaking about your initial claim of universal common descent.
Yes.
Okay? What I wanted to get to the bottom of, and the claim which I'm making, and if you don't challenge it, we can move on to the next topic,
Okay.
about whether human beings are special or not.
Yeah.
Is that as a belief and you have no evidence for it? Because if you're going to move the topic away, either you're implicitly implying you don't have evidence for it, or you just want to go off onto a tangent.
So, I can make a statement that basically, I personally, with me at the moment right now, do not have the however many pieces of scientific research that were carried out, and I cannot quote them off by heart. You obviously have an immense breadth of knowledge on the subject.
No, I don't. This is stuff you can easily find online.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
And
the stuff that I know, there's stuff I know, there's stuff I've read about, but I don't feel comfortable quoting it because it would just be ripped to shreds by the fact that I cannot be.
Can I give you something which is just going to be a conceptual reason why universal common ancestry can never be shown to be true?
Okay.
Okay? I'm giving you very particular.
Okay, go.
Okay?
Yeah.
Life has been on this earth for approximately 4 billion years.
Yes.
According to the National Science Foundation, a published study last year in May, 99.999% of species are undiscovered. Not organisms, species.
Okay.
We don't have their fossils, we don't have their DNA, we have nothing.
Yeah. Because they came and went and
They
extinguished.
came in and fossilization is very rare. So because something happened a very long time ago, 4 billion years, life has been on this earth, and 99.999% of species are unobserved, any reconstruction you make is bound to be speculative.
There's bound to be holes in it, yes.
Not holes, speculative.
There's no evidence.
Entirely.
Yes, pure speculation, pure conjecture. Were you around 1,000 years ago? No. So would you know what happened in this park 1,000 years ago? Would all the scientists, if they tried to work it out, wouldn't it be speculative? Yes. So Darwinism is based upon what happened 4 billion years ago, with 99.999% of species missing. So by that same logic, it is also speculative.
But Darwinism is the observation of what has happened.
It's not an
recently.
observation. It's a reconstruction of phylogenetic relationships in the remote past.
It's mainly observing the things that took place before Darwin. I'm sure you know where Darwin formed the theory, right? On the Galapagos Islands, right?
Well, there's dispute about that. But
He went there. He classified the species as many as he could.
There, all he did was he came up with a way that organisms change, adaptation. And before he published The Origin of Species, a Christian creationist 20 years before him, he already published the theory of natural selection as an adaptation. So there's nothing new. All he did was he made a claim that natural selection leads the bacteria to the elephant. It leads, you have this natural blind process with no foresight, and this has created all of life on Earth. And he came at a time where Christianity was dying, and there was a rise of secularism, and from the very beginning, he got support from secularists, whether they understood what he was saying or they did not, because it was a religious challenge to Darwinism. For example, just a few years ago, Jerry Fodor, an atheist philosopher of science, he published a book called What Darwin Got Wrong. And what he said at the beginning of the book, and he's an atheist, and he published the book with another evolutionary scientist, and they're both atheists, and what they said is this. They were challenging Darwinism because it wasn't making sense. But they said, we realize in our industry, which is the scientific enterprise and the philosophical community, allegiance to Darwinism is absolute, whether you understand it or you don't.
Okay.
And the proof is in the pudding that you've come here believing and claiming that it's true, but you don't have any evidence. You've just been socialized into accepting it.
It's a religion.
Fair enough. Fair play. So I think you've read that book.
Yeah.
So what have they proposed instead?
Okay, they didn't propose it. They proposed what other scientists have come up with.
Okay.
So they proposed Evo-Devo, evolutionary development biology, as an alternative.
Okay.
Plus, there are 5 alternatives that we currently have in evolutionary biology which challenge Darwinism. We have evolution by natural genetic engineering, put together by atheist evolutionary biologists. We have Lamarck, neo-Lamarckian evolution. We have mutationism. We have symbiotic evolution, and we have evolution by self-organization. All of these 5 alternatives to Darwinism, you'll never hear about because Darwinism is becoming to a religion. Yet all of these 5 alternatives were put together by atheist evolutionary biologists who don't believe in God.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason why people believe it to be true is universal common ancestry and natural selection creating all of things is just because we've been socialized into it. We've got no evidence.
I respect that. And I will admit, I have not heard about the theories that you mentioned otherwise. I have not heard about them. But I'm very curious to hear what they say.
Just look them up. What they basically say is the core of Darwinism is we have random mutations and natural selection that accumulates over billions of years. What they're claiming is the random mutations are not beneficial. They're claiming they are directed mutations, which are changes due to the environment. So they're directed changes. Natural selection is a trimming force. So say you got a hedge and you want to cut off the leaves. That's what natural selection does. It just trims. It explains the survival of the fittest, but not the arrival of the fittest.
Okay.
And they come up with a whole bunch of evolutionary mechanisms which are challenging Darwinism. And the whole reason why Darwinism was popular was this. Richard Dawkins, in his book The Blind Watchmaker in the 1980s, he says before Darwin, atheism may have been logically tenable. Right? You may be logically have some sort of evidence for atheism. But after Darwin, we became intellectually satisfied atheists.